Holy shit, my friends, it's a crazy world out there. How's everybody doing today? You know, I actually haven't figured out how to start this video. For a few days I've come out here, I've taken notes, I've been looking at the figures and facts, and I've thought, what could I possibly offer in a video to talk about all this shit that's going to help anybody or, you know, help to ease anybody's fears or whatnot. I thought, you know, for all the years I've talked on YouTube about various shit, I'm actually at a loss for words. It's a very strange thing. You know, I can talk about all the more mundane and strange aspects of life, but when it comes to this, there's so much to talk about that I don't know what to cover. So I'm just going to go straight from where I'm at right now. I have I went out yesterday and I actually left home for the first time in a couple weeks. I found a guy on Craigslist who was selling these cameras. 2 cameras, GH2s, Panasonic, for like $200. And I thought, you know, I have enough money from my Patreon account to actually buy a camera where I can see myself, see the screen, because this old one I had was crap. But I bought 2 of these, these Lumix GH2 cameras, and with no lenses or anything. I have my own lenses, but 8 batteries and 2 cameras, and I thought, this is what I need to cover what's going on right now, because what's going on right now is absolutely insane, and I really don't know what else to say about it. We are living in a very strange time. I want to make sure I have cameras to cover it. When I drove through Portland yesterday, it was pretty dead, and I drove to southeast Portland area, or actually it was, southwest Portland. I drove through downtown Portland across the bridge, and as I came off of the off-ramp to meet the freeway of I-5 North there was a fire truck and a rescue vehicle who were both coming up. I could see them coming up the freeway behind me as I was merging. So I slowed back down to about 50 miles an hour so they could go past me. And I noticed after they got up a few feet that they weren't hurrying to any particular, you know, rescue. It was at that moment it all clicked, and I said it must be 7 p.m. And I looked at my clock and it said 6:57. And sure enough, I mean, tears entered my eyes. I thought, here we are with, you know, if you're not aware, 7 o'clock is the time when people have been celebrating the healthcare workers and, you know, hitting pots and pans outside of their windows and whatnot. And to celebrate the people who are putting their damn lives on the line for what's going on right now. And I guess the reason why this is hard to talk about is because there are so many people who are complete morons who really believe this is some sort of a conspiracy or a liberal or democratic plot to throw the election. This has been going on for months. The last 2 months, people have been talking about how this is just some way for people to overblow it in order to make Trump look bad. And let me just say right now, I'm going to cut you off right there. You're full of fucking shit if you think that. This is not a time for partisan behavior. It doesn't mean you can't insult those who are not behaving properly in charge. But it does mean that this isn't a partisan issue. Viruses don't give a shit who you're from, where you're from, who you know. And there are so many people out there who are blaming China for this, or saying it's a China virus. That's fine if that makes you feel better inside to think that you can blame a culture for what's going to kill you. So be it. But here's the thing. It's not a Chinese missile that you can retaliate against. It's a virus that started in China, and you're going to have to face it, whether you like it or not. So calling it names or insulting Chinese does not help. And I only bring that up because there is a lot of hate and anger towards the Chinese because of something so ridiculous. It's obvious that it's not their issue. You look back to the pandemic, the flu of 1918, a lot of people believe that started in the military areas of Kansas, where the military actually carried it across seas during the war. It was a United States virus, but guess what? We call it the Spanish flu. Flus, viruses, coronaviruses, they don't care what culture you are. They don't care what religion you are. They don't care if you want to gather together in a church and say, we don't care what the government tells us to do. We're going to gather. And let me tell you, this is what happened in a lot of churches. This is also what happened during Mardi Gras in Louisiana. And let me tell you, they're going to fucking suffer because of that. Sorry to be hateful or sound hateful or spiteful towards, Louisiana, but I get it. We're Americans. We want to do what we want to do. But this is one time when our governors and experts begged us to try to isolate. And they held Mardi Gras. And 3 weeks later, all of those numbers are starting to show. You can't deny it anymore. All the states who ignored orders or ignored quarantine ideas, or, because they didn't want to feel like they were being told what to do by some liberal government, you are the governors who just killed a bunch of your fucking people. The governors in the states who refused to offer lockdown orders or at least recommend them because they didn't want to risk re-election, you killed people. This is said and done. There's no point in defending that or giving evidence. It doesn't matter. If you look back to 1918 and what happened with the flu pandemic, I have a whole paper here that talks about how in Portland they were offering fines that were something equivalent of thousands of dollars today for anybody who didn't wear a mask. If you went out with a cold in public or you coughed, you were fined. So when, the White House comes out and says, well, this has never been seen before. We've never had an issue like this. They're completely full of shit. If you're willing to look at history, you can see what's happened before. And this has happened before. And we dealt with it. The states that actually took great initiatives to fight this in 1918, 100 years ago, had better results and less deaths. And they got back to work quicker, and their economies recovered faster. And that included Portland, San Diego, I believe, Seattle, places that actually did mandatory lockdowns, who at first were ridiculed for stopping the American way of life, but in retrospect, they did the right thing. So I'm not going to sit here and complain the whole time. I realize there's racism involved in this and that there's a recession coming, and people want to say, well, this is just causing an economic disaster, but the reality is that the economic recession was coming a long time before this. In 2008, we bailed out the banks. The homeowners paid for that, and then they just kept printing money. So I want to ask the American citizens, if you think that they're just going to print money to send you and send these corporations, I'd like to ask where you think that money's coming from. Because if you really think the government can create money out of thin air to just pay businesses, all they're doing is just delaying the inevitable, a complete collapse of the economy, which will happen at one time or another. But I'm not here to debate that. A recession is here, and we better think ahead to prepare for it. It sucks, but what can we do in the meantime as a nation? And I had this thought the other day. Why not fix our infrastructure during this time? People are completely locked away in their homes. They can't go out and do anything. Businesses are closed. So why not get out and fix the damn pipes? Why not get out and fix the water supply in, Michigan, places in Detroit where they need decent water pipes? Why not go out and improve the roads in areas? Because they know that it's all falling apart. And America's not meant to be preserved. It's meant to be hung on to until it all falls apart. Really, there are no obligations to American citizens by our government. They cater to places like Saudi Arabia, where, we send across the majority of our weapons. And I'd like you to know, amidst this, oil prices have dropped dramatically because of no use. And they've been telling you that oil will drop to $1 per gallon or gas will drop to 99 cents per gallon. But if you listen to what's going on, the administration has been begging Saudi Arabia and Russia to raise their prices, to try to keep prices high. Why? Because when you're pumping oil from shale deposits, it's more work and it takes more money to get the oil. So you have to keep prices artificially high in order to make it worth pumping. In other words, America's mad because we made bad investment decisions. Other countries have plenty of cheap oil, and they're going to sell it for whatever price they can. That's capitalism, something we supposedly love. So why not fix the infrastructure while we're all waiting, right? I don't know. I feel like I'm going on irrelevant details here, but God, I got so much on my mind right now. It's fucking ridiculous what's going on. The fact that these places have to bid for masks, that states have to bid for supplies that will help them save lives is appalling to me. You know, when SARS came out, I'd like to just make this one point. I'm not going to go on and on about how America fucked up, but we fucked up bad because we made it political. We're acting political, partisan. If you look at some people, it's like, I don't need to social distance. I'm too cool for that. It's like, hey, fuck you. You're killing people. The fact that you're not paying attention to what society is telling you doesn't show that you're a brave, independent American. It shows that you're an ignorant asshole who has no real understanding of how viruses work or what it means to protect a society or to be in a society. If you truly love your nation, you protect your people. If not, then you're just an idiot. And so this supply chain, the fact that people aren't able to get the materials they need, that's one thing. I'm not blaming the government because we don't have enough supplies. That's not going to go anywhere. We either have the materials we need, we have the masks we need, or we don't, right? Like I said, I made my own masks. I use these, I made my own little nose things out of paper clips. I put little filters in there. I'm thinking about making some more to give to friends and family and stuff. I've got a whole variety of different kinds of masks, like all of these. And the funny thing, I bring that up because so many people were saying, masks don't matter. Masks won't protect you. They don't matter. The government's saying they don't matter. The whole time I was like, if you really think that protecting yourself from aerosol and droplets entering your lungs isn't protecting you, what you're really saying is, well, I understand that the people who are the healthcare providers need these masks more than I do, and therefore I'm just going to deny the fact that it helps at all. I wear a mask when I go to the store. Now they're finally recommending it. It's not like you're too much of a tough guy to not wear a mask. Get a clue. You're protecting your family. You're protecting your community. Putting on a bandana is very simple. Simple math. So, anyhow, what I wanted to say was that the same case happened in America and in South Korea. On the same day, we had the same first case. South Korea took strict action because they had dealt with SARS in 2003. They knew what to expect. They knew how to tackle it. South Korea has managed to ease their cases, and they're doing just fine now. We have barely hit. We haven't seen shit yet. And I don't want to sit and rub this in because I know that people are already stressed. Nobody wants to hear that it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse, that millions of people might die. But that's where we're fucking at right now, people. And there are still idiots denying this shit. Fox News denied this shit for months, saying it was some Democratic hoax. I'm not a political guy when it comes to news, okay? Look, I have my politics, but I don't watch the news. I don't watch CNN. I don't watch Fox. I don't watch NBC. But once in a while, you're going to see an article. And I cringe when I see MSNBC obsess over Trump, just like I cringe when I see Fox obsess over Trump in the other way. It's not about Trump. And he hates that. This is actually about the people now. Center stage has become the situation, not the president, not what's going on in the rest of the world. And the lowest income people are going to be hit the hardest by this. It's fucked up. Many people will do just fine on this, and a lot of the people who live check to check will suffer because of this, and that makes it really tough. So, what's it going to change by this, right? Are we going to stop shaking hands? Are we going to wear masks more often? A month ago when I made a video talking about this, I heard at least 5 of you subscribers say it's just like the flu. And I'd like to ask you, do you still believe that? Like, when are you willing to get it through your thick skull that this is not the fucking flu? Because if it was, people wouldn't be making a big deal about it. If it was just the US or just China, that's one thing. But when 150 countries are closing borders and locking people down and making strict rules because of this, how can you be so fucking ignorant? Because when you talk about being woke, let's say, to the fact that this is some conspiracy, you're completely asleep if you think this is fake. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care where you were born. And a lot of folks like to say, well, the kids don't get sick. They say that 6% of kids still get affected by this. And let me ask you if that's an acceptable rate. If even one child dies because somebody was too stubborn to avoid getting sick in their family, Is that okay? And I'm just going to leave it at this when it comes to whether you're willing to die for your beliefs. You know, Tucker Carlson, I think a couple other guys, there were a few different people who basically made the impression that old people should just die off so we can save our economy. And in my opinion, that is just completely disgusting. I've lost faith in humans if they think that. I really have. If you think that anybody should die to preserve an economy, because the idea of an economy is to preserve people. People aren't here to preserve money. Money is a representation of protecting people. And I'll just like to leave you with this. If they say, you know, I've heard this saying that a society, the quality and value of a society is dependent upon how they treat their weakest members. And if you can't treat your weakest members with respect, then you've really lost it. You know, we've had a lot of outbreaks. AIDS in the 80s, a lot of people look back and think, oh, it wasn't a big deal. 30 million people have died from it. It was a huge deal. Ebola in the jungle, we still don't know where Ebola comes from. We still don't understand really actually what animal, perhaps bats. We think it might come through apes, from bats, gorillas, whatnot. But I actually bought this book the other day. I don't know where it is here. I've been reading it for a while. Oh, here it is. Phenomenal book. It's called Spillover by David Quammen. And the whole first 130 pages is just strictly talking about Ebola and how fucking hard people work to understand where it came from. Traveling into the jungle, getting sick themselves, people getting infected and you know, cutting themselves through their suits, and just how volatile and virulent this stuff is with a, say, 50 to 80% mortality rate. There's like 5 different types of Ebola. But this coronavirus is really no different. My brother sent me a text earlier saying that they were going to release something today talking about how there are 8 different variants of this coronavirus, and I looked it up to see if it was true, and sure enough it is. It has evolved and mutated into 8 different varieties. That's nothing scary. No one of them is worse than the other, but the point is that overnight one of these could become a 90% mortality strain. We just don't know what's coming. We just don't know what could happen. And because of this, it's not about just ignoring this virus till it goes away. It's about making an effort to stop any future viruses and to be able to be aware of these things and stop them in their tracks before they come. And sure, we could continue to have experts up there on stage telling us what we need to do, but instead I saw a speech the other day where they brought up this guy from a company called My Pillow. This was one of Trump's heroes, you know, and he talked about, thank you, Mr. President, for saving us. And he said, you know, we're going to start making masks. Our company has moved on to making masks. And, you know, that something how we'll pray this away, that God's going to save us from this. And the reason I bring this up is because God's not going to save you from this virus. A lot of church pastors have said, we don't give a damn what you say. We're going to hold our church services anyway. And I mentioned this the other day, and I said, you know, if people want to go to church, fine, let them. You know, Darwin's law, right? Kill them off. And somebody made the point of, well, they shouldn't bring their kids to church. That's something I completely agree with. Don't bring the children into your ignorance, because, you know, stupid people will die off. And I know that sounds harsh, but we have too many people with stupid fucking attitudes out there. They really think that all that matters is capitalism, greed, and God, and their guns, whatever it might be. And that's not to say God and guns is my issue here, but rather, if you can't see that a virus is more dangerous than liberals or conservatives or some political issue, and you really want to make this virus about a political issue, you're just going to you're going to miss the whole point. I mean, this thing is going to come and wipe through us. And there's guys like Glenn Beck who say they'd rather die for their country. Please, Glenn Beck, die. I don't care. QAnon, some of these conspiracy channels who really believe that they're going to save the day. If you believe in QAnon, I don't really know what else to say. You just like to be told what's real. And, you know, go ahead and gather in your groups, you know, because God doesn't preserve. God doesn't give a shit what religion you are, if there's a God, obviously. If you're going to gather in church groups and meet up in these huge groups of people just in spite of recommendations, then in about 2 to 3 weeks, as the science flies, these cases are going to catch up to you and your state's going to suffer, like Georgia, Louisiana, many of these southern stubborn states like Florida. I guarantee you in the next few days, they're going to fucking suffer hard because of their stupidity. And I feel bad for the people who get wrapped up in it. So, if you ask questions to the administration, you're treated like an idiot. I've seen some news, like OPB asking questions, and Trump just called them nasty questions because they wanted to know some legitimate answers. And what I'm saying is I've completely given up on giving a shit what the administration says. Don't trust these experts that aren't experts. You can listen to Fauci, you can listen to the virologists. I would recommend listening to the doctors, the ones that have to actually deal with these patients. And be ready for bodies, lots of bodies. As harsh as that sounds, they're going to keep coming. And we're going to have some really brutal funerals. And it just pisses me off that people weren't paying attention ahead of time. That people are so fucking blind to this. That they want to sacrifice their own shit, fine, so be it. But don't sacrifice everybody else's shit, You want to go to Mardi Gras, fine. But for the prisoners who are stuck, who have no option but to go to prison and be stuck with all these other groups, they don't have the option of social distancing. So, this might sound more like a rant. Maybe it is. But I just had to unload all these thoughts, and I am frustrated with the stupidity of the right, who want to pretend like the left is the problem. And I'm also frustrated with the stupidity of the left, who want to complain about Trump, who want to constantly pick and, oh, Trump did this, Trump did this. Time to get rid of this shit. It's time to move forward and say, people are dying. It's not about individuals. It's about all of us. Better fucking grow up quick, people. Take care.